All right, I'm joined by the John McClane of this podcast, Katelyn Tossie.
Whoa.
Because you can walk on bare feet over broken glass. The Kevin McAllister of the pod, Alex Sear.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
Thank you for that. And I am your Hans Gruber, Michael Doyle, host of the Marathon Handbook podcast. Guys, that's 3 fictional characters from two movies, Die Hard, of course, Home Alone. What do those 2 movies have in common?
Well, they're Christmas movies, of course.
Are they Christmas movies?
There we go. There we go. Yeah. Are they Christmas movies? The burning debate on film Twitter for the last 15 years. What's your take? Die Hard Christmas movie? Yay or nay?
I would say, I believe, I have been convinced that Die Hard is a Christmas movie from watching, do you guys watch that sitcom? Oh my gosh, what's it called? Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yes.
You were going to guess it because you know all they talk about is Die Hard, right?
Yes, it's Jake Peralta's famous line. He's the biggest Die Hard fan in the fictional universe.
Exactly. He basically mentions it every other episode and about every 5 episodes, how it's his favorite Christmas movie ever. So I think if I didn't believe it were a Christmas movie before, I believe it's a Christmas movie because it has been ingrained into my brain from watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And I mean, Home Alone, of course. I mean, you can't get more Christmassy than Home Alone.
Back home, Home Alone is huge in the Christmas time, and that's it. In like a 2-week period between like mid and late December, it's my dad's favorite movie. We watch Home Alone 2 specifically, and I think it has to be Christmas because we'll never watch it at any other time. If Home Alone 2 plays in like September, it's silly to stop what we're doing and sit in front of the TV and watch it. It's like a Christmas thing. I actually have a Christmas sweater of Kevin McAllister's face with his hands next, like on his cheeks in surprise.
So you were appropriately named for this podcast.
Absolutely. I feel like Michael might have, there are pictures of me circulating wearing the sweater. So I think that's maybe what Michael was referring to.
This is the pod content people are coming for. You should have worn the sweater because we do the video version of the podcast. You should have worn the McAllister sweater. We didn't plan this well enough.
No.
Well, Michael, we don't know how you're going to introduce us when we start the
This
podcast.
is true. This is true.
So we wouldn't have known.
Fun fact for our longtime listeners, I try to come up with something, I don't know if clever is the right word, something to surprise my co-hosts every week in the intro.
Well, let me do one for you. You're going to be Ebenezer Scrooge for this pod.
I have Scrooge-like qualities, except for the hoarding money thing. I don't have much of that. So, yes. And he learns like a lesson at the end, I recall.
Yes,
maybe it's too late. All right. Yeah. I mean, I agree with you guys both. Just to move on from our conversation about Christmas movies. They're both Christmas movies to me, and Die Hard is a personal favorite of mine. Like, just hits that sweet spot. Like, I'm a child of the 80s and 90s, and like the Die Hard franchise is just, that was prime sleepover movie watching. Was like birthday party sleepover, Die Hard, Predator, Commando. Oh, those movies were Lethal Weapon. Yeah. Anyway, I'm aging myself. Sears, like, I've never heard of any of these movies before.
Or sleepovers. They were dangerous.
Oh my God.
Hold on.
Wait a second. No. The slumber party, the sleepover was always the best weekend get-together.
My parents were cool.
Millennials didn't do sleepovers? Your parents
did.
were too
my parents were
helicoptery
cool.
for that? Okay.
My parents were cool enough for it, but some friends were not allowed.
Oh,
wow.
I see.
Wow. Okay. This is interesting. The sleepover was like the most important element of childhood. Like, the birthday party sleepover is the pinnacle.
For me, it was to eat a lot of junk food because I wasn't allowed to have junk food in my house. Like my parents were really strict about that. So I remember being like, oh yes, I'm going to a birthday party sleepover. There's going to be like cake and candy and pizza. I'm going to eat a lot of junk food. That was fun.
Me, it was about staying up late. Like one time I tried to pull an all-nighter, and then you see 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock roll. And then I actually made it until 7 in the morning. And then my friend just lived down the street. I'm from a village, so it's not that exciting. And so I just walked back home, but I felt like I was on top of the world. I had a secret. It's like, I haven't slept since yesterday.
Today, that's just a murderous thought. It's like to do an all-nighter.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, no way.
We first started doing the sort of inside baseball here. When we first started doing the pod, the first couple of edits, especially when we started to do a video version of the podcast, it had been a while. So those who don't know, I put together most of the video stuff for the podcast and the audio stuff. We have our colleague Kosuke who does all the video production of the other stuff, but for the podcast I handle it. And first couple of episodes, been a while since I've been in front of the old video editing software, and there was a lot of like searching YouTube and watching videos to figure out how to do things, and it took me hours, and I pulled an all-nighter, I think, the first episode. So
right. Well, then you had to go back in and edit out all of Katelyn's cuss words.
Of course.
Right. We'll get into this in another podcast because we're 6 minutes deep and we haven't even mentioned running yet. But I did want to ask you guys and sort of put it to the audience in the future whether or not we should be swearing, because it's like, I think kind of it's a struggle for me. I've come to realize that
you guys know quite well.
Swearing is part of my identity, apparently. So, well, that's another intro conversation for another day. So this week's pod is all about setting New Year's resolutions, whether or not it's a good thing, how to set them, how to be reasonable about them, what our New Year's resolutions are, all running focused, of course, although I'm interested in hearing your non-running, your civilian New Year's resolutions as well. If you do them, if you're a New Year's resolution person, we're going to get into all of that in just a couple of minutes, and some tips on like types of resolutions that you can make as a runner, especially if you're like a newer runner, or even if you're an old grizzly worn out veteran like myself and you're kind of looking to get your groove back a little bit. We've got some ideas. I've got some ideas for you as well, at least how I hope I'm going to get my groove back. But before that, so guys, how was your Christmas? How'd it go? This pod's dropping on December 26th. It's the day after Christmas. Okay, full disclosure, we're recording this podcast before
don't
Christmas.
do this to
You
us.
guys are like, what are you doing?
I'm like, oh boy, I gotta make something up real quick.
No, we're recording this in advance because obviously we're not going to record this on Christmas Day. Although we could have, and that would have been fun, but a little chaotic for all of us. So, but I do have a Christmas related running question for you both.
Okay.
Sort of a 3-pronged question. Have you ever received a running specific Christmas gift? Have you ever given a running specific Christmas gift? And what do you think the best running focused Christmas gift is to give to somebody? Sear.
Okay. There was a period in my life when I would only receive running related Christmas gifts. I think
that's what people thought of you.
Yes, in university, and then mostly in university. It's like you go away from home and people don't really know what you're into other than what they see on Instagram and Facebook. And my life was all running, so I'd get running gifts all the time: shoes, clothes. Not complaining, was awesome. Wait, what was your second question?
Have you ever
given?
Remember?
Have you
ever given a Christmas gift?
That's
running Christmas gift.
Yeah, and I have a pretty strict rule about that. The person has to ask. If I give someone a running-related Christmas gift and they don't ask and they're not really into it, I think it comes across as me being like, you should probably do some exercise for yourself. And I've changed in this way. I don't see myself as someone who like motivates others without solicitation. Like, I'm not the guy who will come to you at the gym and say, oh, you should do things like this. Running has to come from you. Right. And if someone shows interest in running, then I'm going to fuel it. Like, my sister, for example, she's always been a runner. So I always ask what she needs and then I'll get her Christmas gift. So yes, for people who I know are into it, totally. And the third question was,
what's the ideal running Christmas gift?
Ah,
The
for me,
the apex of Christmas gifts for runners. What is the gold star Christmas gift?
I've changed my opinion on this too very recently. The easy one is like a pair of shoes or a running jacket or a running hat. All runners do need those things. But if you want to go next level, you buy the runner something that will support their next race. If it's someone close to you and you want to splurge, you buy them the flight. If
Whoa.
it's yeah, that's a big gift, right? If not, maybe it's like a dinner in Houston after this person
Oh,
does
that's
the
nice.
Houston half
I
marathon.
like that. I
That's
like
Right?
really
that.
nice. Good
Mhm.
call.
Hint, hint.
Hint,
Alexis, are you
hint.
listening?
Alexis, if you're
Yes.
listening.
Are you listening to this?
Yeah. Well, it'll be too
Please.
late. It'll be December 26th, so
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see.
I'll try to slide in the hint some other way. But that shows that you're invested in their goals and you listen. It's easy to buy product. It's harder to buy the right experience. So I'm super into that, and that's how I've been gifting this year. And I can say this because people will not hear this pod before
'Cause
Christmas.
it's after Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tossie, what's your
Okay. Let's see. I think I have bought running gifts for other people. I am one of those people, and you guys are going to say, oh man, I'm one of those people, I don't like to ask someone for something specific. I am one of those people who love surprises. I love surprises and I love surprising other people. So I wouldn't really love for someone to say, hey, I need exactly this, even though that would probably be the most logical way to buy something for someone if they really needed it. But I like to gift people surprises and I like to be surprised. So I would say last year for Christmas, I got a pair of the Asics Nova Blasts, which I was super,
nice.
and I had never tried, I never run in Asics shoes before, and I know that Alex always talks about them and sings their praises, and I absolutely loved them, and they fit me perfectly because that's always kind of a gamble, right? I mean, obviously my husband knows my shoe size, but you still never know. All shoes vary. They were perfect. I used them the whole year for my workouts, and I absolutely love them. So it was the first time that I had gotten a pair of running shoes for Christmas. And so that was awesome for me. I also think that anything that you would buy someone that they wouldn't buy for themselves, something that's a little bit more of a luxury, like I wouldn't want to buy someone, I don't know, all the gels they're going to need for the whole training season or something like that, because you're going to buy that anyway. You guys had both mentioned when we were talking about top gifts, you were talking about, for example, those like Nike tights that were lined and they were like really nice and they were, maybe it's something that someone wouldn't buy themselves, like you guys had said. So maybe think of a running gift that someone wouldn't buy themselves, but it's like a little special, like a jacket that they really wanted, but they weren't going to spend the money on it. So I think something like that would kind of be nice because they wouldn't go for that on their own. I bought someone a running gift once who did not ask for it. It was my father. And
whoa. I mean, you can do that. He's your dad. You can force that on him.
And it's not that I wanted him to take up running, but what he was really getting into is he was getting into walking, and he started to walk a lot. And he started to think about steps, and he was, counting steps on an app on his phone. And he was like, okay, today I walked 2 miles and this is the time that I did. And then the next day I walked. So I got him like a fitness tracker so he could see, the number of steps and the time and all that stuff also on his wrist instead of having to hold his phone. I don't know if he's still using it, but I thought that it would have been a fun gift for him to use to kind of have that data at hand. But I'm going to have to check in with him. I'm going to give him a call later on and say, are you still using that Fitbit?
Well, it's interesting. I asked you guys this question. I didn't really know the answer myself. Now that I'm thinking about this, I don't know if anyone's ever given me a running related Christmas gift before. I don't think anyone ever has. And I think part of the reason is I'm a man who wants for nothing. I've been, I've been working in the running industry for a really long time, and I just don't really need anything. And I'm also kind of a weird minimalist when it comes to running. I just kind of run the hell out of a few different pairs of shoes at any given time. In fact, I'm kind of bad at that. Like I don't let go of a pair of shoes as early as I perhaps should. Like I'll put in like over 1,000 kilometers on a pair of shoes usually before I'm like, oh yeah, these are really done. I have definitely given running related Christmas gifts before. In fact, last Christmas, our colleague Jessie Carveth, our news editor, her and I were having a back and forth about this exact subject. And she stated emphatically that she had a rule: never, ever give someone a pair of running shoes for Christmas. She was like, that is,
Why?
I don't know, but she was very, very, she felt very strongly about this. In fact, she should write like an opinion piece about this. I think this would be like an interesting Christmas related opinion piece. But she was like really, really dead set against this. Like, don't. And then I was like, literally this morning, I just went to like a running store and bought my wife a pair of Nike pairs. I think it was.
Well, I wonder if it has to do with not getting the right gift. I think buying a runner a Christmas gift is a slippery slope or a double-edged sword, because there's nothing worse than receiving something that's like inside your area of expertise or enjoyment that is not useful to you. Like someone bought me Yes, someone bought me a water bottle belt for Christmas before, and that by far was the worst gift I've ever received. It's worse than a single pair of socks.
You're like, I'm never going to wear this. Yeah.
And also it's like you fundamentally misunderstood how I practice this sport, meaning I do it for speed. I never wear a huge bulky water bottle belt around my waist, no matter how hot it gets.
Oh, Alex, you should just stash that away. Keep that in the pile for 47-year-old Alex. He's waiting for you down the line.
Uh-oh.
He's going to be like, hey, that water bottle belt. I'm going to need that now, big guy. We're moving a little slower. Might be doing some ultras here and there. You're going to need to stay hydrated.
Yeah, the belt is long gone. It's long gone.
Thinking about the future. Yeah, I'd say to wrap this in a bow, I would say, you see what I did there? I would say gift giving rule. Never give someone a gift that's going to cost them money down the line. So that prepaid 1-year Strava premium account, terrible gift. It's like giving somebody a puppy. It's like, oh,
and then
it's great right now, but like, or just like, it's great now. I didn't really ask for this. I kind of like puppies. Cool. But then you're like, after 12 months, you're just like, now I have to really start paying for this puppy. Yeah. Never give someone a pet. Or a Strava premium account. Okay, guys, let's get into talking about our 2025 running New Year's resolutions, our goals, our dreams, our hopes, and then 2024's
failures.
I was gonna use a more positive term than that. I was gonna say lessons learned.
Oh, okay. Lessons learned.
Disappointments, maybe more accurate.
Lesson learned sounds better. Sounds much better.
We'll get into that right after this break. All right, 2025 New Year's resolution. New year, new us. Reinvention, change, starting over again. It's a clean slate. Jan 1. But before we get into that, let's talk about the messy slate, the failures, the successes. 2024. I'm really curious to hear from each of you. Did you have a 2024 goal, or did you set a New Year's resolution at the beginning of 2024? How did it go? And then we can talk about some lessons learned in a second. Seer, did you achieve everything you dreamed of in 2024?
Side note, are we talking running or everything in general?
I think everything in general might make this like a 70-hour pod. So let's stick to running.
Stick to running.
All-nighters, yeah.
Excellent. Okay. I did not achieve my yearly goal.
No.
My goal, which is funny because my last few months went perfectly in terms of running. But my goal starting in 2024 was to stay healthy all year. That was it. Just stay healthy all year. Don't miss more than 2 weeks of running due to injury at once. That's kind of my benchmark for what is an injury and what's like a little ailment. It's like, sometimes you have to miss a week. You have to miss 10 days. You're better. That's fine. More than 2 weeks, that's an injury. I said, I don't want to fall into an injury. And then in April, I got injured. And I missed about 3 months of training. And so I failed that goal. I had a good second half of the year. That's my success. And we've talked about this before on the pod. I did not come into 2024 wanting to get a coach. I wasn't thinking about it, honestly. And I started working with the coach in June, and I'm pretty sure that helped me put things together for the second half of the year. And the second half of the year was what I had envisioned for the entire year, which was 12 to 16 week training block, a couple races, take a week off, start building again, actually live and train like a high performance athlete without 3 months of break between each season because something went wrong or I got hurt. And that's been the story of my running career ever since like 2017, 2018. The second part of the year, I got things right. And I had a time goal. Actually, I had 2 time goals. And so I'm 1 for 2. One of them was to break 66 for the half marathon. And I got that by 2 seconds. And that was at the end of this year. So it's like, okay, that's
that
one
counts,
goal.
man. That counts. Yeah.
And then
Absolutely counts.
The other goal that I've had for many years was to break 30 minutes for 10K, and I did not achieve that. I came somewhat close. I had a really good 10K race in September where I ran 30:25 on a difficult course and finishing near other runners who had broken 30 by quite a bit before. I finished that race thinking, in the right race, faster course, other day, I have this sub 30. So I'm not really leaving 2024 with my head between my knees or with my tail dragging between my legs. I'm happy with where my times are. So in terms of outcome goals, I'm like pretty satisfied actually.
And I love how right now all of our audience is just like, hold on, 30 minutes for 10K, 166. That's an hour and 6 minutes for a half marathon. Yes.
They're like,
Yes.
do you mean 5K, Alex?
Yeah, do you mean 5K? Exactly. No,
And
it's
10K, that's what I'm thinking.
everyone has got their own set of goals and their own talent levels, physiological ability, and of course, Katelyn, age. Yeah. Tossie, what do you got? You got 2024. You did pretty well. And we've talked so much about all this stuff that like I feel like I could like almost give you your was it Spotify Unwrapped or whatever, or Spotify Wrapped? What's the term that they showed?
What was my number one song? No,
Yeah,
I actually
they show
haven't
you
checked
how
it
many
yet.
times you listen to that one Taylor Swift song over and over again. Yeah. How'd you do?
Let's see. For 2024, I wanted a time goal. I wanted to start shaving down my marathon time. And I did. And I was really, really excited about it because I think it was like 8 minutes faster my marathon this year. And I was really psyched about that in May.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, so time goal, I'm working on it. I'm getting better. I also had another goal, which is going to need to get pushed to 2025 because I failed miserably. My idea was this year, Katelyn, get your nutrition together. And I don't mean it as in like try to eat better. I mean, try to eat more. I just do
Awesome
not
goal.
I do not eat enough. And it's kind of a funny thing, but I have this amazing sports nutritionist. I would recommend him, eyes closed to anyone. He is the best. However, you can have the best nutritionist in the world, but if he gives you the plan and you don't follow it, then it's not going to work. It's just the amount of food on that plan seems challenging to me to be able to eat. But when I get to my workouts and I get to my long runs, I realize, no, I really need that much fuel, because what happens is I get fatigued very easily in my workouts. And so if I don't eat well the night before, like, cause I do this, like, I don't eat tons and tons of carbs all the time, which is what I think would be better for me and better for runners in general. I just, love salads, love protein, just kind of eat and don't really think about or don't plan before those hard workouts. No, today I should really focus on eating a bunch of carbs. And when I do it right, I feel great. And when I don't do it right, I get fatigued and I have a crappy workout. And so this year, I feel like maybe 50% of the time I had less than great workouts because I didn't eat properly. And I think that's always my problem. And so I really, really, and I know we'll talk about this later, but it's going to bleed into, this is one of the many things I have for 2025 is be like, just please eat, Katelyn, the night before really well, before any workout, any long run, and just stay fueled all the time. Because, we do a lot of hours out there between running, strength training, all the stuff in between. And it's just, you really need to make sure that you eat enough good stuff to make up for all the calories you're burning and not work in a deficit constantly, which I feel like that happens to me.
So you're one of the very few people to exit the Christmas break saying, you know what? I want to eat more.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. I feel like 90% of our audience listening right now is like, hold on here. Like, I failed at not eating enough, and I just missed running under 30 minutes for 10K. They're like, what the hell is the matter with these people?
What are you going to hit them with, Michael? I just want to
Yeah.
be nice. I just want to be nice to people.
Yeah.
Alex.
It's not on my list, but maybe it should be. What are you implying?
Oh, nothing. Nothing.
No, I think it's like that's a legit and fair analysis. It's actually a really a tough thing to grapple with, Katelyn, and because there's sort of, I think runners, you can split us right down into two different groups. Like the group who's like, maybe we're grazing too much and we're using like, and I don't want to get into like, obsessing over food and stuff like that, because it's a weird topic that just like, I'm just going to stay away from here. But like, either they're like, I'm grazing on too much cereal all the time. And like, because I ran today, that just means that I don't have to worry about what I eat, which can be pretty dangerous and a slippery slope. Or the opposite, which is like, you've got a high metabolism. You don't realize how high it is until like you start really kind of getting the furnace burning really, really hot, and you need to consume crazy amounts of calories. And that's a tough thing to like accept, because you're like, this seems like a lot of food. But yeah. I would say, Katelyn, can I introduce you to the cereal aisle in the grocery store?
And
it's in the middle
somewhere.
somewhere.
I love me some cereal. No, I love cereal.
Yeah.
I do. And yeah, that would actually be a great thing to have. I do have cereal before my workouts and stuff, because I feel like it's a great quick carb. And also, just to add in there, I also feel like I failed in the fueling during my long runs, because I thought, well, it's a long run. It's not the race. And the days that I did fuel perfectly for the long runs, and I was taking a gel every 30 minutes, I was like, wow, I had the most amazing long run. Yeah, well, no kidding, Katelyn. Isn't this what you teach people who you're coaching all the time to do? So I kind of feel like I wasn't taking my own advice. And sometimes I think we do that. A lot of people do that. It's not just me, but I wasn't taking my own advice. And so I think it's not so much just like, oh, Katelyn, you have to eat more. No. I mean, like, I just need to fuel better for workouts, for long runs, during, before, and after, kind of that sports nutrition rather than just the everyday stuff. Just really tune into my sports nutrition and make sure that it's great so I can perform at my best. And this is what I tell people all the time. So I just have to follow my own advice.
Yeah. Practice what you preach. It's a very difficult thing in running, especially if you're in our position where we're thinking and talking and writing about this stuff every single day.
Yeah.
And, we do know better, but it's hard to actually follow through with that, right? It's hard to make those correct decisions in the moment. Okay. Speaking of which, 2024, Michael's 2024 in terms of running. Here's the big picture takeaway for me. Being 90% there is not being 100% there.
And that's interesting. Okay.
And that 10%, in my opinion, particularly when you're dealing with marathon training, is exponential. So that 10% might as well be 50% because it's so important. And cutting little corners, just what you're saying, Katelyn, cheat, kind of like in the moment, kind of not quite doing the right thing all of the time.
Yeah.
It's fine when you're Mr. Sears age, but when you're up there, you're in midlife crisis Camaro driving age. You don't know what we're referring to, you didn't listen to our previous podcast, I recommend you go back and find that segment. Katelyn drives a Camaro. It's so cool. Katelyn's a 45-year-old man. Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. So for me, here we go. So Chicago, was my sort of big goal race of the year. Speaking of which, kind of a sort of quasi Christmas gift. My wife heard me like talking about Chicago, and I think it was December or January, whenever the sign up is. It's right around this time of year. And then she was like, you talk about you're going to run this race, but you've not signed up for this race. And then she just like went in and signed me up for.
See, that's a great gift.
And she
That's
paid
an
for
excellent
it.
gift.
And she's like, you're just going to let this slip by and you're going to miss the sign up window. And she was right. And she signed me up. So she gave me the gift of running the Chicago Marathon, whether I liked it or not. And I was really psyched for the race. I had a pretty ambitious goal. And in terms of like a goal, time goal, external instead of a sort of a more sort of intrinsic goal would be what it was. I wanted to kind of like match what I had done in 2022, the last time I'd ran a marathon, which was also in Chicago. I wanted to hit sort of around 242, run really strong in the second half and feel really good about it. And just the opposite happened. I struggled. I hung on for dear life. I ran 247 or something like that. It just wasn't, we've talked about this in the podcast before. I just didn't do it the way I like to run a marathon. And I was pretty disappointed in that. Although looking back, like I'm happy I did it. It's a weird thing, distance running. Running is a strange thing that we do to ourselves because the entirety of that race sucked. I had a terrible experience throughout. I was not able to find any joy for any of those 2 hours and 47 minutes. It was just like an increasing pain cave. It was a vice on my head that was slowly tightening, and then it was quickly tightening, and it was unwinding a bit, and then it was tightening again. It just sucked. I was just battling negative thoughts the entire time. It was mostly pretty psychological. And I've given this a great deal of thought, and it was in part because I don't think I had a really good subset of goal planning and structuring for the entire year. I sort of relied on getting myself into really good shape starting at some point in the summer, and being in so-so shape in the first half of the year. And also, I think that I told myself there was all these little things I didn't need to bother to do because they're time consuming and annoying and strength work's not fun and so on and so forth. You got to do all those little things, especially as you age. So That's my big takeaway. Lessons learned. And ultimately I look back and I had a lot of fun in the running world. I think us working together, what we're doing, the podcast, recently went to the running event in Austin, like just such an amazing experience covering all the majors this year. I mean, all that like work stuff around running was incredible. Best year of my life for that. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Best professional year of my life in the running industry for sure. And we're doing really neat things here and I'm really proud of it. And but for the running, my own personal running thing, 90% is not 100%, and don't fool yourself. And that 10% is everything, especially the longer the distance. So
that's great advice.
Yeah. All right, let's get into what do you guys want? Let's talk first about why we think New Year's resolutions are a good thing or maybe not. I don't know. I'm curious to hear your takes on this. And how you can sort of like, whether or not you feel that a New Year's resolution is a corny idea, a successful idea or not, like how you could kind of use it to jumpstart your running a little bit as a runner. Okay. So first things first, you guys New Year's resolution people or not?
I am a New Year's resolution person.
Like,
of course.
Yes.
Of course I like to set new goals, and I feel like time goes by so quickly. You're so busy working all the time, not running, working, not working, sleeping, eating. It's just time for me goes by really fast. And I feel like it's time for me to sit down and reflect at the end of the year and put together those goals. And so I think it's just a nice excuse to say, okay, I'm going to do New Year's resolutions. And it's a way that I'm going to reflect on the year and then come up with my goals for next year and plan it. Doesn't mean that I can't put together a goal during the year, but yeah, I am going to sit and think about it and kind of physically write some stuff down about what I would like to do for the next year. Cause I think it's helpful and it's motivating. It kind of inspires me, the fresh slate for the next year. I don't know if it sounds super cheesy, but that's how I am. You guys know me by now if you've listened to the podcast.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's cheesy. I think that's good. Like that, there are studies that show that you need something like that. You need a type of liminal moment to push you forward. You can actually gain a lot of energy from that. I had never been a New Year's resolution person because I, probably through hubris, always thought that I never really needed that.
Ah.
And now
Fair
I'm
enough.
realizing that I was a bit naive. So I always saw myself as a very motivated person. And so I told myself, I'm not the type of person who needs January 1st. I don't need New Year's resolution. I'm self motivated. I don't need this stuff. I don't need a gym plan. I don't need those things. And now I realize that while that's true, I don't think I knew myself fully. So in university, I had a coach. His name is Bernie Chisholm. And he said something once that I thought was very smart. He said there were push athletes and there were pull athletes. We might have talked about this on the podcast before. And I think this transcends sports. I think that's true for everything in life. Some people you have to push. Some people do well when they have someone on their shoulder saying, listen, you got to finish this by today, because if you don't finish it by today, you'll be late tomorrow. They need the reminders. Then you have the pull people. That's what I am. I will do the thing. If I have to run 20 miles, I'll probably run 21. I would see that as a virtue, but that's not always a good thing. What I need is not someone to push me further. I need someone to pull me back. And so coming into this year, I'm saying, why can't I be my own pull person? And so I never thought it made sense for me to set a mileage goal or I'm going to work this much per week goal. But now I'm thinking, sure, that's true, but it would make sense for me to give myself the goal of, when I wake up one morning and something hurts, don't run. Try to sleep better. When you have time to take a 1 week full-on vacation, don't half-ass it. Take the vacation. And now I'm like, wow, that opens up a whole new category of resolutions that I can take. And so this year, I don't quite have it yet, other than pull yourself when you need to pull yourself. That's as concrete as I can make it right now.
I would say I've got two thoughts on that. One, the name Bernie, you just don't hear any kids named Bernie these days. It's a great name.
It's a lost name. Yeah.
That's what
Bernard,
Michael got from that.
Bertrand, Bernie is a solid name.
And his parents got it right, because he also has a sister named Bernice.
No way. Oh,
Yes.
it's like,
And I don't think they're twins either.
Interesting.
Hmm.
And it's like George Foreman. He named all of his kids like a variation on the word George.
I think
Yes.
it's George 1, 2, 3, 4.
Strange. Georgette, Georgina, Georgie, George Jr. Second thought, we have sort of touched on this before, and yeah, similar, sort of same thought, different framing of that would be, or a similar framing of that would be, there's two types of runner. There's the runner who needs to be pushed more, and there's the runner who needs to be told to sort of like to be reined in, to be pulled back a bit. And the challenge for all of us, for every single runner, is to try to figure out who we are, first of all, and self-identify and know thyself, and then to try to get as close to being in the middle of that as possible, to kind of guard from your own weaknesses in that regard. Like, and it is a weakness if you're like somebody who's just like, I'm going to do more than I should. That's a form of weakness. That's something you need to guard yourself from, right? Like, otherwise, Alex, you're going to get into the situation where you're going to face those 2 week delays because you're injured, right? So, or if you're the opposite and you're like, I feel like maybe I'm the other side. You do 90% instead of 100%. You expect to get the 100% result. You're not going to get it. So, yeah. So Katelyn, you've said you're a resolution person.
Yep.
Am I a resolution person? Like you, Alex, although for different reasons. I think, the arch cynic that I am, I've always sort of felt that like the idea that of the resolution is like sort of like, it's a content thing, a marketing thing. It's some sort of like vapid social media thing. It's people posting stuff on Instagram about what their New Year's resolution is going to be. It's like, I'm going to be more grateful in 2025, like whatever. But at the same time, I do think about it. Comes to the end of the year. We've created the Gregorian calendar. We've created this 12-month structure. You're coming to the end of the year, turning to a new year. You're thinking about the future. And I think everyone likes to believe that they have the potential to evolve and to change. And then you start thinking about the things that you want to do. You start thinking about, goal setting, but then you have to be more pragmatic and realistic about it. It's like, well, how do I achieve that goal? But I definitely have always thought about that. And you do start thinking to yourself like, well, in the next year, I want to do X, Y, or Z, or I want to change this or that. I've got an existential question for you. Do you think people are capable of change?
Well, Katelyn, you want to take that one first?
Okay. I do think people are capable of change, especially with resolutions and forming new habits. I don't think it's easy. I have, some sort of a silly habit where I pick around my nails or whatever when I'm working, and I don't even know that I'm doing it. I've been doing it since I'm a kid, and every year I say I'm going to stop doing it, and I don't stop doing it. So I don't think change, and it's something so silly and something so small that you would think it would be easy to change, but I don't change it. So I don't know if I don't think it's important enough or if I'm absolutely incapable of changing it. So I don't feel that people are incapable of change. I just feel like it's difficult to change. And I feel like you can do a thing. Yeah, very, very, very difficult to change. But setting goals and achieving goals, I don't think that means that you need to completely change your personality or change as a person to be able to achieve a goal. I think they're kind of two separate things, unless your New Year's resolution is trying to evolve and become a completely different person. But, oh, wow, this is a tough question, Michael.
It would be a weird New Year's resolution to be like, I just want to be just totally different than what I am right now.
Yeah.
I want to change. I don't know how, but I must change.
I need to become a villain. I don't know, or whatever.
That's really tricky. I don't even think I really answered it. Alex, what do you think?
I have a take. I think change is most possible when you believe in the change. And by that, I mean, I have a real life example, and maybe this is too much information for some people, but I'm going to go through with it anyway. So I used to have another job a couple years ago where a communications role somewhat transformed into an operations type role, where it was a lot more like taking stock of things and handling emails, spreadsheets, that type of thing. Not really something that's necessarily in my skill set. And I didn't do well in changing the way that I related to my work and the skills that I would use at work. And I think by the end, I probably wasn't that good of an employee because I didn't really believe in the change. It wasn't a change I wanted to carry out. The changes that I've been eager for, I've been able to pull off. And I'll name a couple. Becoming a video and podcast person as opposed to primarily a writer. Yes. Learning the skills that way because I believed in that. Learning to live with a person, with a partner, with a girlfriend, when before then I was living by myself, is a massive change. It's a pain, but I'm making it work. No, I'm just kidding. It's good.
Shout out to Alexis.
Shout out to Alexis. She will listen to this podcast.
You're a saint, Alexis.
And learning to not be the perpetually injured runner by taking a bit of a step back in my approach to training. Those are all changes that I've carried out in the last few years that I've believed in, that I wanted for myself. But if you just tell me like, Alex, you're going to have to get over, or if I listen to something, and this is what I think happens to most people. They realize it's December. They realize people will ask them about what their resolutions are going to be in the next few weeks. They figure they should pick one, and then they panic because then they fall into one of the few buckets of what they should be. I should give more to charity, or I should be more organized, or I should go to sleep early. And like, these are all good things, I suppose. But if it's not really what you believe in, if it didn't really come from you, the change isn't going to stick. And so it's a tough thing. You got to do the work to find out what change you really believe in, you really want to do. And then you can change.
It's like with running. And I think this is the reason why, I mean, I know this is that was just a gigantic existential question that is perhaps unanswerable, certainly by the three of us. Mm-hmm. But although I give you guys both a lot of credit for providing great insight. And I think our audience, I think runners writ large, I think specifically runners who have become runners as adults are emblematic of the real potential for human growth, for change, because I
Mhm.
think it's a really hard thing to do, to be like a self-aware adult human and just be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start doing this thing that kind of exposes me for who I am, good or bad, physiologically, like running is it's a performance in a way, right? Like you're going outside, often other people are seeing you. Very few people like run in a vacuum where like no one ever sees them. And you're putting on these silly tights or these short shorts or whatever, and you're wearing the running clothes that signal I'm a runner, more and more as you get more and more into it. And that's a huge transition, right? And in many cases it's taking a leap of faith, and then you have to follow through with it. So I do think that people are capable of change. And I think running is actually quite a powerful example of that.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, I know, are both kind of like, what the heck is happening to Doyle right now? He's being really
I'm surprised.
he's being really
Very
optimistic
optimistic.
about the human race.
Very optimistic.
Yes.
It's a happy surprise.
Yeah. So I think before we get into sharing our own personal 2025 New Year's resolutions,
Oh boy.
I would say that the takeaway here, definitely that I'm drawing from both of you, is that like change is incremental. It doesn't have to be wholesale, like personality change, but just like growth is probably a better term.
Yeah, growth is a good word.
Positive growth. And that's incremental. And that requires, like, if you're deciding I want to run more, say you've been running for a year and you've been running 2 to 3 times a week, it's kind of all over the place. And you just want to become better at running, and you want to become more comfortable with it. You want to feel in control of your body. You don't want to feel like you're always kind of like it's always an uphill battle, and you want to feel more fit, perhaps, or you want to run your first 5K or 10K or half marathon or whatever. I would say the incremental part would be like making the time in your life and scheduling it, where it's like, I am going to run every morning at 6 a.m. because I know nothing else is going to get in my way. This is the time that I can run, and I'm going to commit to that. And then you put it in the calendar, set the alarm, and then just tell yourself I need to get out the door, and then it will get itself done. And then if you do that over and over again in 2026, your goal is going to be something like a time-based goal or whatever, right? So, and that is change, that is evolution, that is growth. All right, guys, we're going to take a break. And then you guys are going to tell me the big plans for 2025. Be right back. All right, and we're back. 2025. It's hurtling towards us. It's inescapable. We're going to have to do it. So we might as well lean in. It's goal time. What's the New Year's resolution, Alex? Jan 1. You wake up early. You're excited. I want to get this started. 5:45 in the morning. Let's do this. 2025. I'm here for you. What do you have written? What have you journaled about? What have you written? What have you written down and you've put on the fridge, 2025, and then you circle it?
Yeah.
What's the goal?
You're making it sound a lot more eat, pray, love than it's going to be when I'm in Eastern Canada in the freezing cold and I wake up and it's dark. On January 1st, I'll be about 2.5 weeks away from my first race of 2025, which is the Houston Half Marathon.
Oh, exciting. Yep.
Whew.
Yeah. So I'm
thinking
that it's not going to feel like a new start. I actually think mentally I'll feel like I'm deep into chasing some goal that's ongoing just because of the timing of it. But I do have a type of goal / resolution. I have a couple goals, time goals that are just very outcome driven. I want to reset my PRs basically in the 5K, the 10K, and the half. The 10K is probably the most concrete one. Like I mentioned, I want to go under 30 finally this year. I'd love to do it before I turn 30 in August. That would just be nice for the numbers. And the process goal to accompany this outcome goal is I've had a bit of a realization in the last few months, and it's that I've finally made it to a place fitness wise and running wise that I've wanted to be at for many years, which is on the bleeding edge of what I think I can do. Running faster workouts than I ever have, setting new personal bests. It feels good. And my resolution is to protect that, which means that I want to give myself the chance and think of myself a little more as a high performance athlete day in, day out. It's something I've wanted in university and that I had to get away from when I was injured for a long time. And I think that's what I need to really feel fulfilled inside of my running in the next year, because you never know when you'll get that chance again. And if anything, I think 2025, I want it to be a big running year for me. I don't want to leave anything on the table. And so that does mean, not going out as much, maybe passing the drink and instead having a non-alcoholic beer one night. It's the things that are boring in the moment, but that I think are going to pay dividends in the long run. And that things that when I hit 31, 32, and maybe I'm dealing with an injury, or maybe life's getting busy, I can say, I really nailed 2025. I think that's what's important for me in the next 12 months.
This is a fun bit of insight because I think, okay, so I think a lot of our audience, and including myself to a degree, is are recreational runners, and I think that there's always been this great divide between recreational runners and we'd say like sort of more high performance athletes, right? And I think that there's this idea that the high performance athlete is just really talented and they just are awesome, and there's like very little that's relatable. And what you just described there is super relatable and interesting insight, right? So hopefully our audience appreciates that, because I think that's pretty cool to kind of see that like you guys aren't that much different than us.
Yeah, and I mean, to be clear, there's still many steps between myself and an Olympic athlete, right? That's not even where I am. But I would go and guess, and I mean, covering this sport and having spoken to many athletes who've made the Olympics, some of whom, I used to race against quite closely when we were 19 or so, and they've had a huge glow up in the last 10 years, and now they're an Olympian. I don't think it's all that much different for them either, right? It's oftentimes the balancing of the daily distractions and difficulties of life and training, huge levels of training.
Katelyn, you wake up.
Here we go.
I don't even know what January 1st is in 2025.
Wednesday.
You're awake.
Gotcha.
It's a Wednesday.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Awesome. Middle of the week.
Okay.
What's day one look like? What's the goal? What's the focus?
Okay. Well, mine is a little opposite of what Alex was saying, because he's kind of working towards that goal that's going to be right in the beginning of the year for the first one out there. And my big goal for 2025, which I'm super excited about, is going to be more in the second half of the year. So I do want to mention, of course, habit-wise is what I mentioned before about fueling properly for my training. Because, it's like Alex was saying, all those little decisions, the daily decisions that aren't running, make you a better runner. And so mine is, I'm just going to focus on that one, on the fueling. And that's kind of going to be my habit. Of course, I want a PR in Boston. That's something that, that I really want to do. But those are my goals that are there. But my biggest goal for 2025 is I want to train for and participate in a high rocks race. Have you guys heard about these?
Oh boy,
They
yeah.
got you too. No, okay. Katelyn.
Do. Yeah, I do. I really want to do this because I've always watched CrossFit. I've always liked to watch. It's not that I follow it all the time, but I've always liked to watch the competitions. And I say, wow, I would love to be like that and super strong. But I'm never going to do CrossFit because to me, it would just, it's counterintuitive to my running. It doesn't make sense for me to have this, massive amount of muscle mass and risk injuring myself all the time because, I'm not very flexible and I wouldn't be good at a lot of those movements. It's just something that I just don't think would be smart for me if I want to continue my running career. However, the high rocks, which I don't know if some of our listeners, I won't go down a rabbit hole on it, but I'll explain.
You explain it briefly. Yeah. Because I know what it is, but I think that it's still quite a niche
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
event.
Yeah, and it's just that I stumbled upon one of these competitions one day because I love to watch sports, and I stumbled upon it, and it's an event where it combines both running and functional workout stations. So some strength training, and so what you do is you run a total of 8 kilometers, but they're in 1 kilometer bursts. So you have to run 1 kilometer super fast, and then it's followed by a functional workout station. So, for example, you would have to do a kilometer on the ski erg. Then later you have to do a sled push, a sled pull, burpee broad jumps, these sorts of workout stations like a farmer's carry. However, most of the workout stations, the functional workout stations, even though they do have weight, with wall balls and that sort of thing, it's not that bodybuilding sort of it's not really gymnastics focused, which CrossFit can get into. They have some really tough moves, like those handstand walks or something that I couldn't even think about doing. But the workout stations actually seem more aerobic, a lot of them, like the rowing machine and the ski erg. So it's a lot of continued cardio and also some tough stuff. But I like, I do gym stuff, and it would be a really big challenge for me. And I think that I would love that challenge because I would have to focus a lot on that. I would want to get my kilometers faster. So I would continue to work on speed after running Boston in the marathon. I would continue my speed workouts to work on whittling those down a little bit, and then continued by more strength training than I'm doing now. So if I'm doing a couple days a week, maybe do a few days a week and really focus the sessions on those 8 specific exercises that I would need to do. And then choose a high rocks, hopefully for somewhere. If I could do it like in June or July, would be amazing. So they haven't released the dates yet for the available events for July. And that's when I would kind of be the most convenient time for me to do it. And so that would be my goal. I know it's something, kind of running, but yeah.
I had an idea.
Yes.
A little light bulb went off. I believe one of the High Rocks events is in Toronto. And you know what? And I you're describing this and I'm like, this is great content. We need a video about Katelyn doing the High Rocks experience from a runner's perspective.
Yeah.
Because it is fascinating. And wouldn't it be cool if we all got together and Alex and I cheered you on and Koske filmed the whole thing? And then
that would be, we're just making an excuse to see each other again.
There you go. No, It's good. That's good. I like that. That's it. That's an interesting, and it's also a clever little hack because it's going to force you to, really get organized with like strength training and stuff. Yeah. I know you're already you're a model runner in that, like, I'm sure you're already you've got it all planned in. You do your strength training. It's very organized. Very much the opposite of me. And, but that's a great one. And, I'm hearing more and more about running friends that are High Rocks curious. I think the whole Spartan race thing is like a more themed variation on that, but this is a more sort of focused on, functional strength, like a really good class turned into an event. Or a bit of a competition.
Yep.
Which is clever.
Yeah. And it just looks so tough it just looks so tough because you don't get any break and everything just seems so high. I wonder how long I've got to take, I don't remember how long it took them to do it, but they did them really fast. The elites did this event really fast.
Yeah. Cause there is a running component, right? Cause you run 8 kilometers and it's what is it, 1 kilometer or is it 800 meters? I forget.
I think it's one. They do 1 kilometer. Yeah, 1K the ski erg, 1K the sled pull, 1K that. Yeah.
It's like a triathlon on steroids.
Well, that's my plan, guys. I hope I can do it this year. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, we'll have to make some plans offline about that one.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Okay, so my resolution.
What about you, Michael?
I got a couple of different thoughts here. One, overall, in terms of overall life planning and goal setting, I've realized the last few years I'm a bit of a chicken. I don't like being forced to have to do a lot of really hard work in the winter, in the snow. And so I've avoided the spring marathon for quite a while. It's been a few years since I ran a spring marathon. And if I look through my history of marathon running, I tend to skip the spring. And, but then it creates a hole in training. And this is learning from 2024 going into 2025. As I alluded to before, I think Chicago wasn't as successful as I wanted it to be for a few different reasons. And one was just, I wasn't coming in with any sort of like, I had like a so-so amount of fitness coming into the beginning of the Chicago build. I think this time around, I need to do a little bit more work in the spring going into the summertime. And that starts in the winter, and that starts January 1st. And that's why I think New Year's resolutions are not a corny thing for runners, because starting something on January 1st, it lines really perfectly with the spring running season, right? Because you got to do all that work in January, February, and March in order for it to pay off in April and May, right? When all the events are, for the most part. So I'm just going to sprinkle in a few more races this spring. I don't race a lot. I might throw in a couple races in the springtime, and I got to put a legit event in April or May. And that's either a marathon or a half marathon. I don't know which yet, but I've got a couple weeks to decide. I got to figure that out. That's one.
You should have come to Boston with me.
Well, Mr. Sear and I are going to be there anyway, but we're doing our own version of a marathon. We're doing the coverage marathon.
Coverage marathon. Okay.
Exactly. The marathon handbook marathon.
Yes.
And okay, so my big goal for this year, besides that, and this is a goal for like 2025 and then for the rest of my life.
Ooh.
Until I can't do this sort of stuff anymore, which is I'm going to incorporate a running project into every year of my life from here on in. I did one last year. We talked about it a little bit. My little sojourn around the Killarney Loop in Ontario. It's a beautiful rural mountainous part of kind of like middle of nowhere Ontario. Incredible terrain, granite, old mountains that are receding into the ground, but still very, very vertical. It was a 90K all-day effort. It's not a race. There's no time. You can do the FKT thing, the fastest known time thing, but I'm not good enough to do that stuff. So, but I'm going to incorporate, and this is something that I've sort of borrowed from the sort of more philosophical approach of like climbers, of like alpinists. They have like these projects where they're like, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to work towards it and I'm going to build out this project and I'm going to execute on it. And so this summer, I've already talked to a couple of guys that I'm going to do this with. I'm going to go run the Presidential Traverse in New Hampshire, in the White Mountains of New Hampshire.
Oh, awesome.
So the White Mountains of New Hampshire, a mountain range in New Hampshire, actually, fun fact, has some of the worst weather ever recorded in global history. It has the highest wind speeds ever recorded. It was like 300 and something kilometers an hour.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would knock you over.
At the top of Mount Washington. It would blow you off the top of the mountain. This is during like the inclement weather months. I'll be doing this in the summertime, around the summer solstice. It's on paper not a terrifying distance. It's 31 kilometers. Starts with you got to climb up to the first top peak of the mountain range from basically sea level. Total elevation gain for the run is 8,500 feet. And you run, it's called the Presidential Traverse because all of the mountains in this mountain range are named after U.S. presidents. So, and this sort of goes into this like kind of project-based thinking. Like alpinists get into like what they call peak bagging, which is like climbing as many peaks as you can. You kind of like keep a tally of how many peaks you've done. In this case, in New Hampshire, in the White Mountains, there's the 4,000 footers, which is let me look here. There's a group of 48 mountains in New Hampshire that are at least 4,000 feet above sea level. And the Presidential Traverse, I believe, has 8 of them. So there you go. I'm already well on my way.
Wow. Okay.
Not that I would focus on that specifically, but I just love the idea of this, like, of a project. It's not a race. It's not about time. It's not about place. It's not organized. I organize it myself. I go, I can, kind of control and do, so I can do it sort of whenever I want. So like if I show up and the weather is terrible on the Friday, I can wait to the Saturday, that sort of thing. So that's a big goal for me this year. I'm going to do that.
Cool.
And then I want to kind of carry this over every year, or I do kind of at least one of these projects every year until I'm a very old man and can't do them anymore.
Will you do this alone, or will you bring along a couple people?
Going with a couple people.
Okay.
The two guys that I ran the Killarney loop with last year. We got together the other night. We had like a planning meeting. We had a few different ideas. We had go back to Killarney again and learn from our mistakes. And I think all of us were just kind of like, maybe not that.
Let's pick something new.
We thought about doing an ultra, like an event in upstate New York. And then this came up, and this just felt so right. So
which event was it? Which ultra was it? The Bear? No. Bear Lake? No.
It's in Ithaca, New York.
Okay.
In around Ithaca. I forget what it's called.
Well, put on your list, an ultra in Costa Rica, please. Or if you don't want to do a race, I'll take you guys on a really awesome, if you want to traverse mountains, I've got plenty of them here for you.
This is, speaking of goal setting, this feels like something that the Marathon Handbook team should put together for, if not 2025, 2026, the Costa Rica team, get together.
Of course. Yeah. We have I could take you guys to so many awesome places to run. It'd be awesome.
Well, you've already mentioned so many cool events that happen there that
yeah.
I'm both jealous and sort of like curious at the same time. So yeah, so those are and then the big one is kind of like both of you, just sort of running back a 2024 goal, which I think is actually I think it's a healthy thing, and it's not. I don't think you should just like keep moving on from goal to goal every year and just be like, oh, whatever, it didn't work last year, so I'll move on to something else. A lot of this stuff is like a long-term project. So for me, it would be, I'm going to take a run at a fall marathon again, and I just want to feel fit and in control of what I'm doing in the last 10 kilometers of the marathon, whatever that time goal ends up being, whatever. And I know that sort of like unpacking that, getting to that place requires getting all the little things right. And so that's a big focus for 2025 for me.
Nice.
Good.
Non-running, just really quickly, non-running goals outside of the world of running. Sear, what's something you want to achieve in 2025?
Oh, outside of the world of running is to keep doing work that I enjoy.
That's nice.
Yeah, I think when you're out of school and you start your work life in your 20s, you go through a phase where you'll just kind of do anything to get your name out there or make sure you have enough work, especially if you're a freelancer. And so that is fine, and it's a good way to make connections. But after a while, I think you do have to hone in on things that you enjoy and things that mean things to you. And I think I was much better at that in 2024 than I was in 2023. And I want to keep that going in 2025 because it just makes me a happier person overall.
That's really nice, Alex. I love that. Yeah. I'm going to piggyback on that.
It's like, me too.
Because mine just seems so I think, Michael, you're one of the people who inspired me to my goal, which is a non-running goal for this year, a new resolution.
Go on.
Okay.
Read 100 books? Like, what's the...
There you go. I really want to get back into reading because I used to love reading. You're right. You guessed it. Absolutely. Hit the nail on the head. Seeing Michael with that huge stack of books and watching in the background in the podcast, if those of you who are just listening to it, Michael is surrounded by books in his home. I used to really love to read a lot. And when I started reading now as kind of my job, getting, editing and writing articles and doing that, I kind of got away from that because I felt like I was reading all day and things that I really loved, because piggybacking on Alex's, this has been such an awesome year for work as well. But reading for me, I haven't been reading in my leisure time, which I used to like to do a lot. And so I might ask you, Michael, later to send me like, okay, here, if you have to read, I don't know, top 5 books of the year, what would it be?
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah. And so at least I
Love
can
me a
get
good list.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah. And get inspired and motivated and, you know, and just start. And just because I know once I get back into it, I'll just start rolling with it. I won't want to put the books down. But I haven't taken the step and found a really great book that has like captured my attention. And so that's what I would like to do. And I think, Michael, you can help me.
This is somewhere where yes, this is something where I can help.
Awesome.
Here's one good tip actually. And this is just a short-term 2025 goal or resolution is, I guess a resolution is different than a goal in a sense where it's like, I will resolve to do this. But a goal I have is actually a book that's, if you're watching the video pod, like right over my whatever shoulder, my left shoulder. I have 2 copies of it. I actually got this one and then this one because I'm a like degenerate book collector. But what I like to do in the last few years is pick a big book that I find interesting and I'm curious about, but it's big and intimidating and it's tough to get through on your own. And I've developed a little book club with 2 of my pals, 2 running pals. There's a running tie in here. A guy I used to work with in running who was like top 800-meter runner in Canada for a while and who's a really close dear friend. And Alex Sears' coach, John LaFranco. The 3 of us have a book club. And we've tackled a few really big books, including like we did Gravity's Rainbow a couple of years ago. And I think that was the inciting book. It was like, it's a big, complicated, weird, hard to read book that book nerds, literary types talk about. Very few people I think have actually fully read cover to cover. And we're like, we want to get through this. So it was like a support. It was the Thomas Pynchon support group. And we scheduled in Zoom calls. It was definitely started during the pandemic now that I'm thinking about it. We scheduled in Zoom calls. We had like a quarterly book club call. We had to read to a certain point. And then we sort of discussed what happens in the story and the book to that point and our thoughts on it and some of the themes that are emerging and that sort of thing. So the book that we're going to tackle starting in January with this book club is 2666 by Roberto Bolaño. And very complicated, very weird 1,000-page book that came out about 15 years ago that has been sitting on my shelf. I own 2 copies and I've never read it. So I've read about 50 pages of it like 3 times. It's one of those books, you know, like you start it and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. And you read, you do a couple of good 1-hour sessions. You're like, this is like starting a race, just running up a mountain. And, but we're going to do it. We're going to get it done. So that's a goal.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So a peer support group for reading is a good idea.
Nice.
Or like a number goal is cool. Or like, I'm going to read a couple of years ago. I did like, I'm going to read 1 book a week.
Oh my God.
Which I did. And I succeeded.
Wow.
I actually blew past it. Classic. Just like running. It's like, I'm going to read 52 books this year. And I read like 65 or something like that.
Wow.
It became a little
fast
obsessive.
reader. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a fast reader either. So it just became like all my spare time. But okay. Last thought, just for our dear audience here, some ideas. If you're, whether you're new to running, and you found us through like the training plans, which is a common way people have found Marathon Handbook, or you're like a dyed-in-the-wool runner and you've been doing this for 30 years and you've done a million marathons and you're searching for new motivation, like what are some good types of goals, good types of New Year's resolutions you can put forward for 2025? We've created a little list here, Katelyn. Let's go through it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, first off, I think you mentioned, Michael, about a distance. So choosing a distance that you want to achieve is a great goal for next year. You know, you want to run your first 5K. Maybe you're just a runner who goes out a couple times a week, but has never done a race or a park run or something that would be really fun, or a first marathon. You want to get into an ultra. So a first something for a distance would be really nice. And then we also spoke about PRs. So something time-based. Alex, wants to break his 30 minutes in the 10K or, the 66 minutes for the half marathon that he broke last year. So find your time goal. It's always great if you already have a race in that distance and you have a benchmark to go off, not just to arbitrarily choose it, but to really say, okay, this is something that is attainable, which we can get to in a second, right? That's super important. I want to qualify for Boston, something like that, but it has to be, an attainable time goal there. Another couple, and then I'll pass it off to you guys, the consistency. I think that's a great one. Just saying,
Absolutely.
I just want to be consistent running, or I want to be consistent with my strength training, or I want to be consistent with following my training plan, or my mobility work. So anything with consistency that you want to make sure you don't fall out of it throughout the year. And one that Michael mentioned, which I love, the project idea and the adventure idea. And I think for me as well, with the High Rocks, just choosing something, some bucket list race or event, or if it's, maybe traveling somewhere that you really want to see, to run there, make it this big special event for you for the year. And then the consistency will come with that, so choosing some new adventure would be wonderful as well.
Yeah, when I think of goals, like, try to listen to yourself. Like, what gets you going? Like, what makes you excited? We always have this thing that, like, running's supposed to be hard. Like, yeah, but also you should enjoy what you're doing. Like, if it lights you up, you'll probably stick with the goal. There's one goal I think people should maybe try and take into account is, like, out of a social goal, like whether that's joining a running group or tightening a relationship with, like, 2 running friends that maybe you have, so that you schedule this weekly Monday run with them or something like that. Or if it's to get involved in the running community, volunteering at a race, maybe organizing a race. I don't know what your level of involvement is going to be here. And then I think this is probably more relevant for me, are the maybe less sexy but smarter training goals, in terms of maybe it's focusing on not getting injured. I think that's, if you're an injury prone person, that's a good goal to have throughout the year. Maybe it's getting a coach. Maybe it's writing out a proper training plan as opposed to just going balls out every week. We're talking SMART goals. Did we go over the whole SMART acronym and what that means?
Yeah, we actually did an entire episode on this, so I will make sure we link that in the show notes, because I think that was a really solid episode where we went really deep on how to structure and create goals. And there's that whole acronym, the SMART acronym, which I have to admit I cannot remember what any of the letters stand for. Yeah, but
they're specific, measurable,
achievable,
realistic, and timely. Is that it? Timely is the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Realistic, irrelevant. Yeah.
So, last question for you guys. The run streak. This is a controversial one for me. Some people come into the year and they're like, I want to run every day in 2025. That's my goal. That's my goal is to have a 365 run streak, or just to begin my lifelong run streak. Here are these people that are like, I've been running every day for 40 years or whatever. How do you guys feel about run streaks?
I have to put my coaching hat on, and please do not do a run streak. I know that some people aren't going to be happy with that, and they're really proud of their run streak, but it just worries me that someone's going to get injured if they get obsessed with having the run streak, because that means if you're feeling under the weather, like you're sick, something's hurting you. I mean, just training in general, for me, I suggest that you have one day where you don't run, where you do, if you want to do active recovery or cross train or do stretching, mobility work, yoga, something, take a walk. But I suggest that you always have one day where you're not running. So that would mess up my streak right away, because I just would never suggest that to anyone. And so run streaks, I feel like, can be a little on the dangerous side. I'd say if you want to stick to a streak, stick to your Duolingo streak.
Oh, I have a Duolingo story, which shows me exactly why
Duolingo
streaks are not great. So I have a friend who uses Duolingo, and we were in the back of an Uber last weekend, and he showed me his 2,100-day Duolingo streak, which, if you do the math, is something like 6 years. Said he hadn't missed a day. He was learning French. Thought it would be good for his job to have both, because in Canada, French is also an official language, obviously. And so he says, well, I need to know some French. And now I've been learning it for 6 years. And so I am French. And so I look at him and I say, oh, alors ton français s'améliore. And he goes, what?
No,
Oh, after 6 years,
you
streak?
crushed him in one shot.
Oh, Alex, yeah.
So sometimes the streaks are not what they appear to be. Focus on the task at hand and not on the number, perhaps.
That's a good comp, actually, when you think about it in the abstract, like to a running streak. That's a very good comparison in a weird way.
Yeah.
Like, and what is it? What is, like, how do you categorize? I've had this conversation. I've talked to a few in my years as a magazine editor, you know, did a few stories on people with crazy run streaks. Talked to some people that had, like, I think at one point we did a story on a guy who has sort of self-proclaimed the longest run streak in the world. I forget which person this is. Apologies to you. If hopefully your run streak's still going on, but there's like 43 years or something like that and going. And I was like, okay, well,
Wow.
what is a run? And the guy's like, well, it's got to be a mile. Like, a mile, 1 mile. He's like, yes, if I run for 1 mile, it counts as a run. Then he proceeded to explain to me that, like, he had a broken leg once, and then he went out and, like, shuffled for a mile, and I was like, well,
no.
got it done.
No,
Stuff like that. It's just like madness.
That's brutal.
So no run streaks, folks. I mean, obviously do as you please, but not recommended from the Marathon Handbook podcast crew.
No, but I think you can maybe morph it into something else. So a run streak, like every year you run this same race for this many years, which would be kind of a cool streak to do.
That's fine.
Something like that, something that's safe, you know. So if you want a run streak, change it to something like that. And then, or a run streak just kind of morphs into consistency. I want to make sure that if I'm healthy, I run, I don't know, this many days, but it would just make it safer. The running every day thing is just, I feel like you could get injured easily.
What you can do is you can set a mileage goal for yourself for the year. You're like, I want to run 2,000 or 3,000 kilometers or miles or whatever in the year. Mm-hmm. Divide that up, you know, put a realistic goal of, like, I want to run 4 times a week, 5 times a week, 6 times a week. I want to try to run every day, but I will take breaks. So instead of 365 days, it'll be like 340 days that I'm going to divide that number by. And that gives you like an average. Then you can focus on hitting that average, and you have to do a little screwy math to figure out if you're going to do a long run, stuff like that. But that's probably a more pragmatic way of approaching some sort of a run streak. Mm-hmm. Okay, guys. Happy New Year. The next time we pod, we'll see you in 2025, and the resolutions begin. Last little thing beforehand, obviously, subscribe to the pod, give us a rating and review, very deeply appreciated. It's how we connect to other runners and continue to grow the channel, and recommend the show to somebody else. Give them the gift of Alex and Katelyn's clever banter and my curmudgeon-y observations. Another thing, guys, we're getting together again and doing a live pod in 2025.
Very soon, actually.
This was amazing news, guys. I can't wait to go.
We're
going to my hometown.
March 1st and 2nd, the Boston Run Show. It's basically like the best running expo ever, minus the pressure of having to run the race. It's open to the public. So if you're looking for a weird, fun weekend getaway for running that's all about running but doesn't have that pressure of the race, the Boston Run Show is March 1st and 2nd. Took a look at some hotel prices because I'm booking our travel right now, and pretty reasonable stuff right now, actually. It's not like Boston Marathon weekend, which is like ridiculously expensive because every hotel knows this is a smaller event. It's at I believe it's at the convention center in Boston. It's at the Boston Convention Exhibition Center. And we are doing a live pod from the stage of the Boston Run Show. And if there was ever a moment where imposter syndrome just washed over me, it was when the Boston Run Show posted their, wall of speakers on their site of like who is going to be at the Boston Run Show. And they've got Des Linden is doing a keynote speech. Laz Lake, the founder and creator of the Barkley Marathons. Dave McGillivray, the long-time Boston Marathon race director. Meb Keflevsky, winner of the Boston and New York City marathons and a Olympic medalist in the marathon. And then there's Alex Sear, Katelyn Tossie, and Michael Doyle. They're there too.
Hey, at least I'm on the first page and you're on the second, and it might just be alphabetical, but I'm gonna take it.
That's right. You're with the A-listers. It's going to be super exciting. We're going to do the pod live there, and then we'll push it out onto the feed afterwards. I think we might even organize some other stuff. So if you're in Boston, give us a shout. Send us a DM. Put a comment on the YouTube channel if you're watching this, or Spotify if you're listening to it does comments as well. Or send us an email, hi@marathonhandbook.com. I think we're going to try to organize some other stuff while we're there. So it should be a lot of fun. Boston Run Show, March 1st and 2nd, 2025. Okay, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody, and happy running.
Talk to you in 2025.